What's up, Rockstars? Today is the big one. This is the biggest video I make for the year where I talk about everything 2022, all the stuff that we know that's coming when it comes to board games, miniatures, stuff like that. Guys, if you are into any of the crowdfunding board game scene, this is something you're going to want to watch. We got Euros, we got Skirmish, we got everything in between. So let's dive right in. Now, I'd like to start out with a quick few things. First of all, thanks to Into the AM for being the sponsor for today's video and the channel partner for many months now. They are a great company that makes some awesome shirts that are super cool. As you can see, I'm wearing one right now. You guys, if you've seen my videos, you know I wear these all the time. They are fantastic. The fit, the feel of it, the quality is impeccable. I get nothing for selling you guys crap. This is fantastic stuff. There's plenty of people that have already found out how great these are, and they're 90% off right now. I mean, they are huge. So right now is the last day I'm posting this. So the day I'm posting this is the last chance you have to get this 40 to 90% off. And I have a 10% discount code down below exclusive to this channel for you guys. So that works on top of that. Okay. This is like $5 a shirt and less. This is insane. So as you can see, tons of cool options. Really just, they barely make anything I don't like. Seriously, this is some fantastic stuff. They're always coming up with new stuff. So if you haven't seen like some of the new abstract stuff, they got that going on. They even got glow in the dark stuff. They got bourbon in space. They got freaking, surfer astronauts and an alien getting punched and a skeleton in a pill bottle. They got it all. It's awesome, amazing quality stuff from Into the AM. Highly recommended, and it's freaking cheap right now. If you've ever wanted to buy any of these, if you've seen me do the spiel, this is the last chance to get this crazy deal. You won't regret it. I promise you. It's really good stuff. Now, with that out of the way, I also want to announce a few patrons that have joined. Sorry about that. I had to get my notes because I'm going to butcher these names anyway, but if they're not right in front of me, it's going to get even worse. So I apologize ahead of time for that. But seriously, welcome Omar Filmerson, Runda, and Danny Marrero. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of this wonderful community. If you appreciate this video or the stuff I've done throughout the year or the effort I just put into this board game industry and covering it, if my videos have been helpful for you at all, there is a link down below to that Patreon. Even $1 a month helps out greatly. Thank you so much. Now, that's it. I'm done. Let's dive into a whole bunch of board games. There are going to be timestamps below. There are going to be links below. That being said, there's going to be a lot of links below. So Control F is your friend to go ahead and just search for that or do it on your phone. I know you can do it there. If you're on your TV, good luck. The point is there's all the information you need down there to everything I'm talking about. And let's just dive right in. I have some information that's a whole lot, some information that's a little bit. It just depends on what they've released, depends on how much effort I put into searching for it, because sometimes you gotta go and sometimes the website doesn't exist yet, and it's been a mess. I've been at this for hours, so let's just get into it. I'm going to start out because January 11th, so that's really early on, January 11th, there's going to be two things coming out that I already kind of am looking at. One of them is Yucatan here. Now, Yucatan is actually by the person who did Kemet, so there is that. And it looks very kind of cool. If we go outside the images here real quick, it says that you're the leader of the main city. You have promised your people to win the favor of the gods, and their fate is in your hands. Send your warlords to capture enemies, increase your might with every season of the sacred calendar, and sacrifice your prisoners to the main gods to ensure your dominance. So you kind of are going through these different phases, and eventually you win or you lose. Here's a view of the map, at least what seems like it is. And I don't know if it spins or turns. I know that's a big thing lately. But then we also have the player boards kind of around here. It looks like at least 4 player. You can see some of the designs when it comes to like what their inspirations were for a lot of these kind of things. They actually, I think, have some minis shown as well, or some renders, I should say. Yes, here. So like here's an alligator, here's a spider, here's an angry monkey, here's some weird vampire thing. So there's a lot of uniqueness here, definitely, especially in setting. I feel like there's not a whole lot of board games in this setting, so I think that's super cool. And we're going to find out a lot more about it here real soon because, again, it's set for like January 11th, which is huge. Then after that same day, we have Rampart, the budget-friendly wargaming terrain. I'm a huge fan of the original Rampart system that they made. I have a whole bunch of it for like the cathedral stuff and other stuff that I even paid to have more, and it's really good stuff. I use it for my Warhammer, like battle buildings, stuff like that. I have like parts of buildings that I can like put together, and they store fairly flat, and then I do that. I didn't do the fully modular. I found it better to be like big Lego pieces is kind of how I use it. So really, really nice. But if you look here, this is different now, right? First of all, they got the city defenders, stuff like that, but I'm seeing windows. I'm seeing much more broken parts. I'm seeing a floor. So there's definitely some differences here that I'm highly interested in, for sure. Even some of the scatter terrain here is different also. So yeah, I don't know what they have in store, but it looks good to me. I will definitely be there with you guys if you guys are there, because I could use some more Rampart. It's some great stuff. It's all in hips. It's fantastic. So that's super cool. That's coming out January 11th again. Now, I don't have dates for everything, and in fact, I'll take a quick moment to just pause and to say, if you know of something that I don't cover, or if you know more information about something that I don't share, please share with the rest of the community here down below in the comments. It'll be so helpful. I'll try and kind of keep a list of a whole lot of information, but there's only so much you can do even in a pinned comment. So for the most part, just feel free, even after this video, to scroll down, and I'm sure all of you guys will be sharing some great information as well. I look forward to just keeping the ball rolling and getting this as detailed as possible. Okay, moving on. Mythic Games teased this 2022. There's a skull with like some fang things, right? What's going on here? Now, I can't confirm perfectly what this is. However, they then did announce Rise of the Necromancers for their next Phoenix Line game. What the Phoenix Line game is, essentially, Mythic Games takes a game that was crowdfunded, that was a great game that they thought was really, really solid as an actual, like, the gameplay, but perhaps didn't have a humongous campaign. And so what they do is they're like, okay, let's put our Mythic Games effort behind that so that we'll set up the campaign and do all that. And normally they add a little new something new here. In this case, it is this expansion here, I believe, the Undead Sea. So even if you backed Rise of the Necromancers, you can still get this new stuff. And there might be some other updates throughout as well. It depends on how they package it and stuff like that. I don't know yet because they've only ever done Enchanters before this. So really excited to see what this is, but I love the theme, so that's really cool. And again, that's coming in like 39 days at the time of like recording this, so you guys know how down to the wire I am on here if you're watching this day one. If you missed this video, if you're seeing this late in 2022 or anything like that, feel free to subscribe. I do this kind of stuff all the time for you guys, so you guys can stay as informed as you can be and make great purchasing decisions, because you know what's coming up. So you know what, this looks really cool, but this golden nugget of a game is coming out, and I want to make sure I have enough money for that. This helps you prioritize. So hopefully you find this video helpful. Moving on from that, we have Flash Gordon, the freaking board game. Look, I don't know much about the board game here on offer. What I do know is I appreciate even like the shape and size, right? It looks like an old like Hero Quest box, like an old Monopoly box, like how the board games used to come in. I dig it. Even if it's just the render, it doesn't end up like that. I don't care. Nowadays, I'm moving, so this is just like faked out. I barely have any games here right now because nobody wants to buy a house full of board games. Who knew? Anyway, the point is that they all come in like these like big boxes and stuff like that, right? Well, like square more, right? Not the case here. So definitely interested to see what this is all about. Super cool that they're doing this. So I dig it. It looks cheesy. It looks kind of crap. Exactly how Flash Gordon I feel should be. Personal opinion there. Moving on, we have Ronin Warrior, the samurai board game. This is an interesting one because I just reviewed Harakiri Blades of Honor. So if you missed that, again, subscribe so you see stuff just like that. Anyway, it has two different modes. It has like the adventure phase and like the kind of overhead map mode that plays that way. And then it has the exploration phase, which is like the dungeon crawl style kind of thing. This is similar in that it has two essentially whole games there, right? And so it has this kind of overhead adventure thing, and then it has like a skirmish mode too, and they even mention like buildings and stuff like that. So this is kind of like a really high level here. They actually have more information here, so you can kind of see some of the renders up closer. These renders look like they're straight out of Chiptune box, by the way, which is kind of funny. It looks like that classic blue, but whatever. All it means is that they got the STL, I suppose. You can kind of see that right there. But if I go over to, I believe, gameplay here, they have a few little things here. So they got solo, co-op, strategy, 1 to 6 players, 90 to 180 minutes, and age 14 plus for this. So, I'll have links down below. You guys can do as much research as you want. Not everything here is actually filled out. And so, you'll go to some things and it's just like, they just don't have the information. So, all this stuff is early and we only have what we have, but I will for sure be tracking this and let you guys know when more information becomes available. Moving on from that, we have, and I'm trying to go quick, guys. This is going to be a long video anyway, so I'm trying to give you as much information as quick as I can. Quantum Shock. Quantum Shock looks super cool. It's by the Game Forger. They make VR games on Steam, by the way, which is kind of weird, but they also apparently love board games and really freaky board games. Think I don't know. Think like Event Horizon meets the video game where you have to shoot off their appendages. It's like Deep something or other, or Dead Space. Okay, so it's Event Horizon meets Dead Space is pretty much what this is. It looks freaky. Okay, so this is a cooperative sci-fi and horror board game with miniatures, controls time, space, matter, and reality while developing your quantum skills. Okay, so what is it like? Well, first of all, the minis, at least these minis, right? These character minis look super innocent and actually quite cool. And then they did the glasses well. I love the fact that we have some people that are a little bit overweight. I think that's cool to get different body types, especially as a painter. I really appreciate that. But not done in a ridiculous or funny way or anything like that. They're just people of different sizes and shapes. I really like the fact that, his shoelaces are untied and he's on pizza boxes and he's sitting in a computer chair. I don't know what's going on. His ferret's about to steal his slice of pizza. But of course, then there's this crap too. So there's some really weird stuff going on. And not only that, but this doesn't really seem like space, right? This seems like a building. So I have no idea what's going on. God only knows. I'm sure we'll find out. There's some weird stuff there. And real quick, and again, there's a whole, I'm going to link to this. There's a whole thing on this where there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like that giant mini there. I wanted to talk about the narrative game and multiple endings here, right? So it says here that you'll face, twists, secrets, subplots hidden in the many conversations with the secondary characters and events that players are going to face during the journey. There's going to be a few games I'm covering like that. It's very much the era of the BioWare-ish style RPG in board games. And that's what it sounds like here when you're talking about almost like discussion trees and stuff like that, right? So anyway, there's that where you'll get lots of information and different endings to explore. Each mission of the campaign has multiple layers that offer great replayability and new surprises. And then of course the multiple endings as well, that offers higher replayability of the game. So yeah, there's definitely different routes you can take, different paths. And as you can see here, it shows a character normal and then a character not so normal. So I think people can switch sides, stuff like that. It looks pretty cool. So definitely going to be tracking that one as well. Next up is Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game by Come On. This is their big 50th campaign on Kickstarter. There is 13,700 people freaking already ready for this. In fact, I'm even one of them. This is going to be big. It's Zombicide with Marvel Zombies. You actually play as the zombies that you then go and fight people, and you're fighting shield agents or the runners and the fatties and the regular walkers and stuff like that. And the abominations are actually the regular heroes. But there is a mode, at least at some point, where you can play as the regular heroes as well. I suspect we're going to be getting miniatures from both. And there is a giant Galactic mini that has a zombie mode and a not. So he has a swappable head and arm so he can be a zombie or not a zombie. They got Silver Surfer. They got Spider-Man, they got Hulk, they got Iron Man, they got Captain America, they got everybody. It's going to be huge. I'm expecting a ton of freaking minis. Probably a lot of expansions, probably a lot we have to pay for. But it's going to be a wild ride. Even if all you do is watch, it's going to be big. So yeah, there's Marvel Zombies coming out as well. All right, next up we have Sankokushin, and this is going to be like the big thing of this year. It's essentially like Kingdom of Death Monster in that it's a boss battler that's very detailed, that is a little anime, that has a whole bunch of other stuff, but it still looks like it plays quite different. It has a very big focus on conversations and talking, actually. You can talk yourself out of fights. I want to start scrolling while I talk, but I'm not going to focus too much on it. There's death and stuff like that, but it's not extreme in any way. There's none of that kind of stuff in here, but like here you can see kind of the boss battle arena and then some of the other stuff that you'll be dealing with. And obviously even more cards are added. And a lot of the bosses have unique things where they'll have unique mechanics, whether it's a posture, whether it's a kind of a conversation tree, whether it's them like healing around and doing like there's a variety of stuff, and you'll be getting materials that you can craft in and buy equipment in. And there's like a town that you can upgrade stuff in. Maybe we can get to that here real soon. This is like a long scroll, and this is like, they have like 4 of these. So this is like the town area, where we have all the different districts and stuff. And then, I think, yeah, stuff like this is like the farms that you can upgrade and whatnot to kind of do better. But they can also be invaded by crows, and they can go away. And like, there's a whole other areas. There's, NPCs that are like either trying to give you missions or that are trying to follow you as like an ally. And so a ton of different stuff that's going on here. It's very big and very involved. The only thing I wanted to note is that they're also going to do like a resin miniature line, like this kind of stuff, right? Like, oh, hey, here's them in beachwear. It reminds me a lot of like the Tales video games and stuff like that. They'll do a lot of like skins where it's like, oh, here's them at the beach, and here's them in school, and here's and whatever. Anyway, very anime perhaps, but this is Sankokushin, and it's going to be like huge. So I'll be doing a lot of coverage on that as the year goes on. Next up, we have Gaijin by Awaken Realms Light. This has been on the back burner for them for like forever, it seems. Oh my gosh, but it's still not out yet. I'm assuming it's going to be 2022 at this point. So here it is. If something releases like by now, even if it's like 2 weeks from now or whatever, so it's still in December 2021, it's going to run until 2022. I consider myself pretty safe releasing this video now. So has been like no change here at all. Like there's hardly anything. They've had this information up here for a while. So what you do is you go to the Facebook group and you actually see some more information, which is kind of helpful. You see that they're having like votes on different kind of characters and stuff. That shield's pretty freaking cool. That looks uncomfortable way to sit. You got different boxes and stuff. Number 3 looks cool to me, but I would take number 1 too. Now, number 2, that's fine. You can see some minis. So here's like kind of how the minis are going to look like, or at least one of them here, some more art, and then you actually get some real gameplay stuff here. So this is the stuff I wanted to share with you guys. At least for now, you could see that it's kind of like a hex map sort of thing that you're moving around in, and that you get to do different things like gain 1 body or draw 1 side quest or draw 2 blueprints and keep 1, and you can kind of move around and explore the area by the looks of it. You can see here, this is kind of like your player board where you have augmentations and you have your like body slot here. We're going to keep moving over here. You also have another augmentation over here, a firewall level, a reroll. You know, it almost looks to me like they've developed this so much to where I'm not sure it's so light anymore. Now, I appreciate that. I'm fine with that. But I know Awaken Realms Light was meant to be kind of light, and this is seeming pretty hefty to me for light. I've played some games I think are pretty meaty that I think are lighter than this at this point. Discard 1 basic hack token and gain 1 double hack token of the same type, and you can move your character around and all that. So anyway, you can kind of peruse this and look around and see the different skill checks and all that kind of stuff. Again, I'll link down below, but at least there is a little bit of game info. So if you've been following this, you can check this out and actually maybe glean some more information from that. Moving on from that, we have Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. Oh my gosh. Now this is all the way in November 2022, but still super exciting. Arkham has been on fire lately. They started out kind of, getting their stride up, but between like Rampart and between Wolfenstein, which was fantastic. definitely one of my top games. I consider it Zombicide ++, in my opinion. The ammo system in there is fantastic. The spawning system, great, right? So, like, they have been doing really, really good. I liked their Masters of the Universe, and now they have Heroes of Might and Magic 3. So, combined with the fact that they've been developing actual good games lately, with great quality Hips minis, and Heroes of Might and Magic 3, color me interested. I'll actually definitely be covering this as much as I can. I'll probably be asking them, hey, can I show my audience some stuff? So again, if you're interested in any of this kind of stuff, a lot of this is the stuff I cover. There is that subscribe button down below, right below that like button. So if you appreciate the effort, if this is helpful for you, you can go in and press the like button at any time. Like when I'm ranting on about this instead of moving on to the next game, which is Rogue Angels. I actually played this with the dev. This was actually kind of fun. So this is another kind of BioWare game. In fact, I kind of mentioned it, and they were like, we're glad you mentioned that, because that's the kind of thing we're kind of going for. It's sleek sci-fi, right? It's got the multiple races. It's got the, discussion trees. You can see right here, it is standee, and they do have information on the standee, how much it moves, with their defense, their health, all that kind of stuff. So you will be paying attention to that. So it's very much focused on that. And it is a legacy style game, and it's like a legit legacy style game. So that's probably my one hang up there, is I don't really appreciate the more destructive version of legacy, but they definitely want your decisions to be pretty permanent and pretty impactful. And impactful, I think they will be, regardless of whether you follow the rules around being super legacy or not. The story just lends itself to that. So yeah, the gameplay's fine. Turn order is great. Actions, the combat I really enjoyed. It's a lot of fun to kind of go around this little spaceship that I was doing and trying to get to our ship and being chased by security and hacking into terminals and talking to different people. And, it was great. So there is a TTS demo, obviously. It's public. You could click subscribe right now and play it. So feel free to check it out. Link down below. Next up, we have Forgotten Legends, The Worm Emperor. This has been so long. I think I may have had this in my 2020 video. No, maybe not, but 2021 maybe. 4,500 followers already, and it just keeps growing. Now, why has this not come out yet? I almost made a video where this was going to be featured heavily about that. It's because of the previous games, so they haven't delivered it yet. It is late. They're an indie developer, so they didn't have a whole lot of money. And then, of course, they were hit with this whole shipment thing where it's going to cost like 10x, 15x. And they're like, well, we got three options. We can either try and eat it and probably not deliver. We can ask for more money, or we can just wait a while and let it settle down and keep developing on the game, make it as good as possible, keep adding some things to it, and make it to where eventually you get something that's even better. That's the option they went with. Whether that's the right one or not, whole nother video, not this video. That being said, that's why they don't want to launch this until that is taken care of, till people got their games. So that's what this has been waiting on. Now, this is card-driven. It's high fantasy. It's a very unique style. This is called the Worm Emperor. And even then, you can see these minis. It's a little weird. There's this worm thing with wings. Look, it's a wild style for sure. You can check out the old version, the original Kickstarter, to see a lot more of what you can expect in this one. Next up, we have Perpetuity. Perpetuity. That's what I'm going with. Whatever it is, it's a thing you're fighting. Okay, so this is again, not much information here. You see co-op, competitive, solo. It can almost be, I think, and then with competitive, a 1 versus many. I'll explain that in just a moment. So if we go over here to this website that has this cool little zoom in thing and all that, we see February/March 2022. I don't know what the February/March. I'm assuming it means it's going to be in both. So, because it goes January, February, March, right? That's how that works. So, probably late February, early March, my assumption. You can see some of the minis. It's mostly just people standing there. It's standard stuff. You get some cool ships though, my opinion. You have two different ways of playing it. Standard, where you can actually play with it with a little bit younger kids, and immersive, where it's a little bit older, a little bit meatier, takes a little bit longer. But they both support 1 to 5, not 2 to 5, 1 to 5. Now, this is where I get that 1 versus many. Most people play as Immortals, but you can play as Perpetuity. Now, that might be the solo mode, but I would also imagine you could play that as kind of like the bad guy, like playing Darkness and Solomon Kane versus all the other people, right? And so that's that 1 versus many kind of thing. And it seems very asymmetric, and they have a PDF rulebook here, and you can dive in as much as you want. They got playthroughs, they got all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to cover it all in this video, but again, link down below. Moving on, we got Warpgate Beyond. This is actually a expansion for Warpgate. Again, you can check out all the reviews and stuff for that. It's always nice when you can go and see like, oh, hey, this is an actual game. This is the final thing that people actually were able to review. It helps me at least be more confident backing something. There are a ton of cards here though. This is very card driven, 200 plus card expansion even. And that's just going straight out, like before stretch goals or anything like that. Now, one of the things, anytime you see the GameFound thing, one of the things they love to do is give $5 off. So if you want to, you can just go down the link and click every single GameFound link and say $5 on all of them in case you happen to get it. So if nothing else, it costs you nothing to do. So highly suggested doing stuff like that. You're just covering your butt. It's kind of like grabbing an early bird and then deciding whether or not to keep it. At least then you got the early bird. So you take care of number 1, which is the consumer, which is you. So be sure to do what you need to do there. Next up, we have Deep Rock Galactic, Danger, Darkness, Dwarves, the board game, coming into 2022 on Kickstarter. This is actually based on a video game. If you didn't know, it's a very popular game. You play a whole bunch of dwarves. It's co-op. There's combat. There's mining. There's silliness. You calling out lines. More on that later. One interesting thing to note is Ghost Ship Games, the developer of the video game, is making the board game. It's the exact same people that didn't farm out the IP to somebody didn't buy the IP. They're making their own board game, which is super cool, I think. So if we go over here on Steam, actually, they have a little kind of blurb where you can learn a lot more about it. They were talking about, hey, let's just look at it. What are the biggest campaigns right now that are IP based? We got Darkest Dungeons, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Binding of Isaac, Frostpunk, Street Fighter, Horizon Zero Dawn, Divinity Original Sin, Resident Evil, Kingdom Rush, Assassin's Creed, This War of Mine, and the list goes on, right? Video game IPs do fantastic as board games, which kind of makes sense because if you think about it, way back when, the video games were just doing the D&D stuff. Right? They were doing the roles behind the scenes. That was what the code did for you. And it was very much like a video game version of D&D, right? So it's kind of funny to now go flipping backwards where it's not. Now it's a video game that's then made into a board game. Anyway, side note there. You can see, again, a lot more of it. One of the things I really liked, I'm not going to dive too much into all of it, this right here. So they talk about, they have these different things you can do, but they're like, oh, but there's a side mode. Right? Because I love pictures like this where you see a bunch of people laughing and having fun. That's what board games are about. Where the card effect only works if you yell out rock on, look what I've found, we are unbreakable, right? It captures the theme of the video game so well. It makes people laugh. It's fun. I love it. So the fact that they're focused on stuff like that, I think is promising. Definitely something to look forward to, my opinion. And again, links down below. Moving on from that, we have Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum. This was going to be this year, but was delayed. Sadly, one of the developers was in critical condition. I don't know more. They didn't share a lot publicly, which is too bad. I did reach out and say, hey, if there's anything I can do, let me know. They didn't respond, which is totally fine. I understand that. I just wanted to offer in case there was something I could do, even if it was set up a GoFundMe for them or whatever it might be. So hopefully they're taken care of. I imagine they're taking care of their own quite well, so that's good. But it was delayed until 2022, so now here we are again. Now, what is this? This is a Batman game where you fight Batman. You don't play Batman. All you are is a whole bunch of bad guys trying to escape Arkham Asylum. So you're laying down traps, and you're fighting the good guys, and it sounds awesome. This is by Night Games, who actually do the Night Models range of the DC stuff, which is what you're getting here, which means you have fantastic miniatures that are just really, really well done. It looks great. Now, I don't know if they're going to be these expensive resin versions, but sculpt design wise, it's still very promising, I think. They might have to make some exceptions with PVC, for instance, with his fingers, stuff like that. We will see. So I don't know yet, but it's showing Kickstarter with these minis. So I'm thinking this might be one of the most expensive and one of the coolest and one of the biggest Batman games ever. Look at this Bane. Heck freaking yeah. These are all awesome. And they are doing everything. They're doing the cartoons. They are doing the movies. They are doing, the comics. It's going to be a crazy dungeon crawl. It's going to be a big campaign. Definitely something to look out for. As a huge DC fan myself, I am going to be way into this more than I should. God help me. Okay, moving on. We have Gatefall Monsters. This is a sequel to Gatefall. What was Gatefall? Gatefall was that game right there. This is Gatefall. I actually did a unboxing and review of this game. It was very light, but overall pretty fun. Kind of interesting skirmish game, but quite simplistic. The idea that I believe they're following is the expansions keep adding more and more complexity, so you can kind of add on to it. So, what is this? Well, first of all, you're going to want to click the follow button so you can get the Invisible Man. I'm assuming it's just a base. That would be hilarious if that's all you get. No, I wouldn't be upset. I think it'd be hilarious if it was just a base and you didn't know who it was. I don't know how they're doing the Invisible Man, but I'm excited about that. But they have the werewolf and the creature and Dracula and the mummy and the monster and all that kind of stuff that you can choose to fight with and skirmish with. You use these coins to buy different stuff and level up and just become stronger, and especially with your deck, you can improve your deck, stuff like that. So very interesting game. And normally pretty cheap. You can get these giant minis too, which is kind of cool. Moving on from that, we have Silver Coin Age of Monster Hunters. Oh, who doesn't love Monster Hunters? I have an itchy nose. I apologize. This looks superhero to me. So you get some interesting minis like this guy hanging upside down and stuff. So definitely a unique setting here. But oh my gosh, it is as complex as it looks like. I was diving into this and I was watching this, and all of these are different. I just did Harakiri, where it had the different paths on. I was like, oh yeah, that's a kind of fun map. Ain't got nothing on this. My goodness, that map, look at that. Oh jeez. And then all these different tokens and slots and stuff you're tracking, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So if you want a big, meaty, coolly themed game, this is something you might want to look at. If you see this, I see this and get a panic attack personally. If you see this and get excited, again, a link down below. There's definitely a lot there. And this art here looks freaking killer. Some of the minis are kind of, but this art, it's on fire. I love it. That's great. Next up, Kingdoms Forlorn. Now, this is a wild ride. I'm actually going to zoom all the way down, though. Ooh, we didn't see any of that. Down to, oh my gosh, don't look. Right here. Okay, so Princesses and Princess Miniatures. This will be a separate Kickstarter campaign prior to the main Kingdoms Forlorn campaign. It'll be like a collector's line of resin minis. They did this before with Trespass Odyssey to help raise funds for it and get people used to the IP and invested and interested and stuff like that. It's a great marketing tool. It's a great funding tool, right? There's a lot great about it. So here's an example of a few of them. I really like the designs. I think it's really cool to have here's creepy version of Elsa, right? This is I love the dirty slippers and mud, but then this ornate feather, just looks really cool, in my opinion there. But that's all we got of that. Okay, so now we're going to go back up to the top here. So Kingdoms Forlorn is where there's these different kingdoms that have been there's been a fracture where you can now travel to them, and they're these wholly unique worlds, and so these knights are going out into them, and they're trying to get the resources or trying to explore and do all sorts of other stuff. It looks wild. Here's a knight with some antlers and a pig head, and that's literally on the freaking miniature. There's an egg knight later. There's this guy. It kind of reminds me of Dark Souls a little bit in that it's really, really cool, but also sometimes kind of silly. The egg knight in particular reminds me of Dark Souls. So we got this guy here. He's got a monkey with a knight helmet on, because of course this chick here, this Valkyrie kind of style chick, one of the coolest minis when it comes to the dynamic pose, the differences in textures, the attention to detail, doing these feathers compared to this fur cloak compared to the red curly hair compared to the shiny armor. There's a lot there. I really enjoy that one. The art obviously looks like super interesting, super awe-inspiring. You can see Ignite here. You can see whatever weird tentacle man here. You can see a freaking like armor dragon thing going on here. This angry guy sitting down. Look, this game has a mind of its own. I don't know what it's doing, but color me interested. Tell me about Stoneface. Tell me about Ignite. What the heck? Well, Ignite, look at this. Okay, now you're going to get Kingdom Death Monster vibes. I know you are. That's fine. That's part of what they want. Here's some AI cards for the Ignite. Here's some like map tiles that you can put together, and that seems kind of weird. This is an enemy, I think. It's like King in Bloom. Again, very kind of... If Kingdom Death Monster was a little bit less extreme, this is this kind of stuff. Like, this guy's wild. I don't even know what's going on there. There's a lot of plant growth, though, like this knight. Very, very skinny, very weird. He loves flowers. He's got a few... guys, I don't know what to tell you, except... The Sunken Kingdom's really muddy and really swampy. And then it has a toad dragon. Oh my gosh, a toad dragon. And lastly, battle board prototype, right? Or kind of the view of it. So boss battler is what it's looking like here. Okay, spent way too much time on that, but it's crazy and I get a kick out of it every time I look at it. Moving on from that, we have the Last Mechs. This is coming out Q4 2022. Now, this is exploration, dungeon crawl, 1 to 4 players, where it has a narrative campaign through comic, which is kind of interesting. And then, of course, the co-op and exploration part of it. The art style looks cool. The only worry I have is that this company has struggled to fund a few times now, and it's never really had a big hit. Maybe this is it, though. Maybe this is their break. I don't know. I'm certainly interested. I could use a cool mech battle system thing. I think that sounds awesome. And I see a row of mechs there. Color me interested. Moving on from that, we have the Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac. This will be coming out actually quite soon, I believe. Maybe within the first 2 quarters, at least. First half. This is using the Teberu system. If you didn't know what that was, it's this electronic system. It's like this map. And all your minis and the bases have microchips and your dice have microchips, and essentially it knows where everything is. So it knows, oh, you just opened that door, and so it's going to make a sound or whatever, and then it's going to tell you, okay, spawn these enemies here, and spawns enemies here, and it's going to play a little narrative scene, and then the zombies are going to attack you, and you roll your dice, and then it knows, oh, you barely survived that, so then your character goes, whew, that was close, and it sounds very interesting. This is actually a boss battler. I will be getting a copy of this. I will let you guys know exactly what I think about this. And you guys know I will let you know what I think about this. So excited that I'll be able to get some firsthand experience on it so that I can talk about it as a software engineer. Hopefully I can, appreciate the electronic portion of it and what that does to maybe finally enhance board games enough to where I find it's worth it. Look, I haven't yet. I'm not a big on app-based board games, just because I don't feel they're transformative enough to warrant the finickiness of the context switching and all that kind of stuff. Teberu might change that, though. It might be transformative enough to make it worthwhile. So excited to kind of see that here pretty soon, actually. Next up, we have Kingdom Come Deliverance, a board game. It is app-driven, speaking of which. It follows the acclaimed video game that everybody seems to love. It's very, very popular on there. Over here, you can kind of see a little bit of it. And again, it is app-driven pretty heavily, as my understanding. It'll track your decisions and people remember things and stuff like that. But you do still get some minis and normal board game stuff. So that's good as well. Moving on from that, we have Earth Under Siege Flashpoint. This is a cool one too. It sounds like everything I wanted Reichbusters to be. No joke. Okay, so for instance, they have like the stealth and then the like go full ham, kind of like, okay, now we gotta like just shoot everybody kind of thing. One of the interesting things I thought they did, for instance, with the noise system, is it's distance based. So you might shout at somebody or whatever, and that might be a distance of only 1, whereas you threw a grenade, that's a distance of 3. And so like it depends where you can be. If enemies are far away, you can still be a little loud and it's fine, they're not going to hear you. I thought that was kind of cool, and how they implemented it sounds pretty streamlined as well. I do hope to get a copy of this and actually tell you guys exactly what I think from first-hand experience. I think they're working on that, so definitely interested though, for sure. And I need more sci-fi games. I really do. I only have a couple, and I only like a few of the couple. So, or a couple of the few. It's probably the correct terminology. I think a few is more than a couple. Anyway, moving off of that, we got Celestial. You guys know I love Celestial. I want to do a details video of this. I will hound them until they give me all the information I want. We've been playing email tag lately, but I will get it out to you guys. Might not be this year. It might be early 2022. I don't know. I'm going to try and like really show off this game like it's never been shown off before. This is my goal in life right now, because the minis are cool. In fact, I did not put one up. Never mind. But I have several of them. They are fantastic. It has my favorite mini of all time in it, actually. But what is Celestial? Well, that is Celestial. Celestial is essentially this really wild, crazy, sci-fi, Game of Thrones-ish Chinese mythology craziness is what it is. So essentially it's like this chick over here is like in charge of this people, and they're like holding off this darkness, and their like leader goes away, and there's this prophet chick, and she starts saying crap that isn't politically helpful, so she's outcast, but then she's got followers, and there's the third party faction. Look, it's wild. Okay, I could go into the story forever. The story is super cool. The setting is super cool. What I appreciate is that it has miniatures like I've never seen before that are unlike anything in my collection. I have a lot of minis at this point. I got nothing like this, except I do because I have him. He's super cool. He's literally like floating on his own like tail thing. It's weird. Anyway, you can see a little bit more of the art, and then I'll move on to some minis. Okay, so there is art. Here's where I want to first point out, it will be actually like a skirmish game. And what I mean by that is you're going to get stuff on sprues. Okay, because these minis get like this big. Okay. No, not all of them do, but it's because this is kind of how it is. You have these 75 millimeter ish sized minis that you actually play in the game. You have giant 75 millimeter minis, and then you have these like little guys, and then you have like buildings. It's kind of like StarCraft. It's like an RTS skirmish game. So you have your little troops, and you have your hero units, and then you have your buildings, and you can rank up your buildings through enough resources to where eventually like your buildings can maybe even move around and start spawning guys or doing whatever. You can see a little bit of the game boards here, and we got a few more zoomed out so you can kind of see some of the variety of sizes and shapes and how they're deciding to show the kind of the game board here, where you got different things, and you know, it looks cool. I would love a StarCraft style, crazy Game of Thrones, Chinese mythology, like you have Nua here, and I'm probably saying a lot of these wrong, but you if you know your stuff, which a few of my patrons have been like, hey, that's like legit. There you go. You'll recognize some of those names there. There's Zerong is right over there. So anyway, cool stuff. Next up, League of Dungeoneers. Guys, this is a solo co-op dungeon crawl with heavy RPG elements. My big thing here is just looking at it. It is like the style I love. I love that kind of dark, gritty, you know, like, okay, let's just throw in all the symbols here for evilness, kind of, let's go fight, you know, bad guys. I dig this. So I have no idea how it plays at all. This is all I've seen of it. Looking around, I didn't see too much yet, but it looks super cool to me. And so we have Legacy of Thracks, The Awakening. This has been coming up for quite some time. I think it's around here now. If you want somebody who's thought of it a lot, it comes with 60 pages of freaking background story. And try reading that to the intro group before you even give them the rules. Yeah, you also get a skill mini. So there's that too, I guess. I don't know, I got a whole bunch from Hate. As you can see on the map, it looks very interesting. The style looks cool. The gameplay, from what I've seen, seems interesting, but I'll definitely need to actually see it more, especially like fully fleshed out. So we'll see. But it does have semi-co-op elements, and I'm not typically big on semi-co-op. I want to either trust people or not. I know the whole semi-co-op thing, to me, isn't co-op, my opinion. Next up, Tales of War. This game has some freaking fancy, like, art. Like, I can tell you that much. I mean, that looks freaking good. Like, oh my gosh. So I saw this and I'm like, what is this? And it's not actually like, what it is you have like essentially this like book, right? That's the map. And then you place like your tiles there. And then it's kind of like chess, but it's like super, it's a smart person game is what I could tend to call this kind of stuff, where it's like, you really got to know your stuff and like, okay, I'm going to put this here because then I can do this. You got to have a plan on what you're going to do for sure. But like your units die like that. It's like, oh, the archer shot me. Okay, so my horse is dead. All right. Well, my horse ran into the pikemen, so now the pikemen are dead. And I think that typically goes the way around. But you get my point. It's like, it's this tile movement, really. It's kind of interesting. All right, moving on from that, we have Aldarra Reborn. Almost 4,000 followers. I'm surprised by this. Everyone loves steamships. This is like the only other thing those Arcane minis have done is minis. All they did was like these giant, fantastic STL 3D print, like steamboats or airships. Airships is, I think, the word I'm working for. Sid from Final Fantasy would love that I knew that. Okay. Anyway, yeah, airships though. So it'll be interesting. It'll be, I don't know how this is going to play at all, but what I do know is that a lot of people are really interested in it, and it's certainly unique. And again, I appreciate the uniqueness, so I will definitely be looking at this. Next up, we have Tindaya. Speaking of uniqueness, this seems like really, really kind of cool. So you have these two different gods, and it's like really big on like Earth and like, you know, like Save the Whales kind of style stuff. Like you should honor, you know, the land around us and all this kind of stuff. But what it is, for the most part, is you have these tiles that you set to, and then you can set them kind of however you want, following some very basic rules. But then you're kind of moving around your people, trying to like settle, but still like honor the land and like not like waste it, because then you'll like make the gods angry and they'll like change stuff and all that. But it looks really, really cool. If I start playing this, you can actually see a bit more of the setup, just kind of like how it looks. Ideally, here we go, right? Oh my goodness, it's hard. Anyway, you can kind of see an overview at some point, or they even have like these like stands, which is kind of cool too. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff. You can click that video. I'm not gonna fuss around it in a video this long, or my voice will go out. But yeah, right here, I get to show you here. Here's like the volcano and stuff like that. So different events are happening, and it's a lot of resource management and stuff like that. Very Euro. But it's solo, co-op, and competitive. So there's a lot there for any fan of that kind of stuff. Next up, we have Kingdoms of Akandia, Volume 1, The Seven Realms. What a name, my goodness. This stole my name because they always say KOA, which is King of Average, obviously. They think it means Kingdoms of Akandia, but no. And in fact, they even took KOA Studio, so now I can never have that, I guess. No, I wasn't for it. Anyway, as you can see, kind of decent mini sculpts. They're a little plain, and I worry especially like that there's not enough real detail there for when they're actually printed as little minis as opposed to the renders here. But, and again, this is one of those things where there's a whole lot of stuff that is missing, but there is some cool stuff there too, right? So you can click on gameplay and you can see a little bit of information if it ever decides to load. Here we go. Okay. See, I mean, like they have video placeholders here, but they do have one video here that shows quite a bit. And they talk about the, essentially you have your armor, your head, and your body here. In fact, I can probably play this because they show it several times where like, essentially you can change like your equipment. Yeah, see? So there you go. You can kind of see what you're doing there. Lots of experience points and stats. And this looks super RPG MIDI, like meaty. You get all these resources that you can then collect and bring to a blacksmith and craft new armor and do stuff like that. Looks kind of cool, actually. So there's definitely a lot there that they're working on, and they're slowly showing off stuff. Another cool thing, let me see, I think let's see, creatures. We can go to creatures here. It looks like they have some really cool creatures. It looks like they're probably standees, are my assumption. But, I mean, these guys look super cool. I like them. They look super cool. Okay, moving on from that, we have Purple Haze. This is a Vietnam game that's very narrative focused, obviously. You lead a squad of U.S. Marines through jungles, flooded rice paddies, and straw thatched village. Your decisions determine the story. Your tactics decide the outcome of life and death. Firefights, complete the mission, get out alive. People are already arguing about whether we could have won, we being the US, could have won Vietnam. So already, I think mission accomplished. You got people arguing on the internet about stuff like that. It comes out in 53 days, by the way. There's not a whole lot of more information right now. You can kind of read about it. You can visit their Facebook page. They got a bit of information on there, but for the most part, we just have to wait and see. But it's like 2 months out. So next up, Arena Colossei, Ludi, Gladiatorii. This is their relaunch that they're doing. This came out like at one point earlier this year, and they took a whole bunch of feedback, and they're kind of back at it. The mini design, by the way, is super cool. As you can see, very ornate, and people seem to love it. It's not necessarily something that calls out to me very strongly. Part of it's just the setting itself. But part of it's a little bit of the gameplay too. It's just not something that instantly makes me kind of jazzed about. However, it has a dedicated fan base for sure that looks super cool. You can check out the old campaign by Top Hat Games, and you'll get tons of information about how it plays. So I'm not going to focus too much on that. They show it off quite well in that one, I feel. Next up, we have Bedeville Carnival. This is like a spooky carnival thing where you're trying to like still get a high score essentially, right? So there's a few things you can do. It's very high level here. Right, but it talks about who will end up as the most entertained undead of the bunch, which of the beautifully illustrated attractions will be the most popular, who will get the biggest amount of souvenirs. So that's kind of the goal, 2 to 4 players, so you're definitely competing. But it looks like there's a whole bunch of resources in the middle, and then you're all surrounding it, and I have no idea how this plays at all, to be honest. Like, that just looks visually interesting, so there is that, I suppose. Definitely a unique setting, for sure. Okay, moving on we have The Age of Rome. This is a very pretty looking game, and it seems kind of interesting. So it has essentially a certain amount of seasons, 9 seasons, and then the game ends. You have the scheme phase, the building phase, the action phase, and the income phase. And so you're trying to manage all of this stuff to become the guy in charge, right? And so you can see here, beautiful art, very pretty map, and turning. So it is a turning map again, and I don't know how that works like at all, but they got on Lazy Susan there probably. That kind of stuff always reminds me of like the game of Life, right? It has a little spinner for how far you can move. But definitely it looks pretty. And again, like you can't see too much here, but you can see some of the art. I mean, it just looks really nice in my opinion. Definitely nice and clean and bright. And I love all the marble look of it, right? That marble look is really, really cool. So yeah, don't know too much about it, but definitely sounds like something a lot of people will end up enjoying. And that's sometime in 2022. Next up, we have Astrominers, or Astrominers Beyond Humanity. This is a thematic Euro board game. Okay. One of the funnest things I have about this, especially for a Euro, is you get these little carts that you can put the card down and you put the little dice on, right? But you can move the little carts. I think there's a little, so look at that. You can slide it right in. You can dock them in. I love it. A lot of dice placement, right? So you got the dice placement here. You got the dice placement here. And then you have all these resources, which look awesome as like little acrylic tokens like that. I really dig it. That's super cool. This looks like it looks very, very solid for a Euro. You're going to be able to put little things and a lot of other things that build up and get you better, more little things. So there you go. Next up, we have Steel Legends, Vengeance of the Empires. This is also app driven. There's a lot of like romancing options that people seem to be really focused on. I didn't play Steel Legends, but that seems to be a thing, is like flying to your next husband/wife virtually, in a board game, and also be a pirate. So there is that. People seem excited about this. It launched really bad at the beginning, but my understanding is they fixed the app, and the app is actually quite good now, and people are having a lot of fun with it. So hopefully they have fun with the expansion as well. I believe it does require the original, so FYI, but they will have a reprint. So there is that. Next up, we have Sythopian Wars. Look, it's a science fantasy miniature game. It's like a gloomy version of Infinity. I don't know too much about it, to be honest. The reactive gameplay sounds interesting, whatever that means. In a quick search, I didn't find anything about what that means, though hopefully we will find out more soon. And not the best picture, but you can kind of see there's like these kind of mech things and vehicles and stuff like that, which honestly seems pretty cool. And the boxes seem to be just fold out boxes, so probably stores pretty flat as well. Moving on, we have Tales of Vespershard. This is a skirmish game in a fantasy universe with custom miniatures, like most, skirmish games, really. Again, don't know much about this, except that it looks kind of sci-fi here, right? But then, like, these people don't look sci-fi at all, so interesting setting, at least. Next up, we have Steampunk Wasteland Chronicles. Post-apocalyptic tabletop game featuring 5 clans that fight for remaining resources following complete destruction of human civilization. It can't be complete if there's still people there, but I digress. Looking at this, it looks very video gamey, right? Like I see this and I'm about ready to play Fallout, right? Like that's Fallout there, but this is actually like the map. Right, and so you have little spots for the cards that you go and a tracker thing here, and then these different locations that you go to visit, essentially. So there's where I showed you just a little bit ago, which I think is because again it's very CG, and so it's an interesting choice. Here's like again some of the minis you can see, definitely unique. Flamethrower gym, sure, why not? It kind of seems even kind of silly. Like Fallout a little bit. So I love Fallout, so I'm kind of a little interested. I'm not going to lie. Next up, we have Behemoth Rise of Shadow. First of all, that is a freaking sweet picture, though I worry that eventually that rhino is going to either lay down or die or fall asleep and roll over or something. Either way, people are screwed very quickly in that. It says elements of deck building, exploration, and innovative AI mechanics, and an epic cooperative adventure game. Definitely seems like a unique setting, and honestly, even if you do kind of like normal stuff, I like normal stuff in a very cool, unique setting. I'll take it. I'll take a look at least. Next up, we have Cleopatra Against the Gods. This is another game that is actually relaunched. We're going to get more into those here in a little bit. So here's the canceled version. You can look at this. You can see all the information you could want. So there's definitely a lot there. And they've been doing, I think they've been doing some updates. I don't know. It was canceled March 8th. They have 8 updates. So you might have to look into that. But either way, that's coming for 2 to 4 players here. It's another skirmish game. Okay, next up we have Ta Wars. Dice Tower board game. I don't like the Ta part. The Ta seems weird, but whatever. You do get 6 big old dice towers, which is always kind of fun. And you get to roll a bunch of dice, which is typically kind of fun. So, will this game be any good? I don't know. Will it be any fun? Maybe. Does that make me kind of interested? A little bit. And the art seems decent. So, yeah, we'll see. And I have no idea when this is going to launch. Next up, we have Magical Friends and How to Summon Them relaunch. I covered this when it was on there. I thought it looked pretty cool. I thought it looked very cute. But apparently it didn't look cute enough. So they've done some changes. Again, you can check out the old campaign to learn more about what changes are happening and more about the game in general. Next up, we have some games that, again, were canceled that will be coming up, but there's not even a preview page for it yet. Kabula was canceled. They had an issue, I think, where they like didn't have the minis, and then they were offering STLs. So now you're very much like, not everybody that's interested in Kabula has a 3D printer, and maybe people that wanted to 3D print a Desert Eagle with a Desert Eagle weren't necessarily into the game. So I think they found a way to get the minis, and minis definitely help sell Kickstarters. So I suspect the next one will do fairly well. Okay, then we have Aesopia. This was just too expensive for what it offered. The gameplay was solid. I did an unboxing, I did a review. I actually quite enjoyed it. It's a fun game. Very well made, I felt. So it's just a matter of getting that like price and the offer and availability and showing what's there and why it's a good value. Again, just making a better campaign, really. Obscure War, same thing. They canceled very early. This was just chapter 1. This was not a very well made Kickstarter page, but like, at least the renders look great. The setting looks cool. The art looks cool, I think. Like, this is very cool stuff. So I really like look at this dude. Anyway, very neat stuff. Again, fairly unique, fairly dynamic, fairly interesting. I'm down with all of that. They just need to get a good campaign going. So sometime in 2022. Next up, we have Nightmare Cathedral. This is actually all based off of some really, really freaking cool, crazy art, which I think is just awesome. I can never pronounce the artist's name, so I'm not going to try, but they do mention it. But I'm not going to try it. You can feel free to look up his stuff. It's wild. I have no idea how this game plays. We've been asking. We don't know. We'll find out, I guess. But looks cool. All right, next up we have Ravage Star Armies of the Veil Touch. I just covered this in my previous video. This is actually done by Lazy Squire Games and miniwargaming.com. They essentially made some stand-in chaos minis that you can kind of use for a lot of different stuff. Very fancy, and it looks like, because it's Ravage Star Army of the Veil Touch, I imagine Ravage Star is a whole world that they want to keep doing this in. So I imagine if you get this and you like the style, you'll get more. So it's probably something you want to invest into, my opinion. And Lazy Squire Games does amazing miniatures. Like, they're really high quality. Next up, we have Robomon. I'm going to be smiling for this one. I'll share why in a little bit. This just looks fun. So the moment I saw this, I thought of a video game I used to play and love. And then I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I still feel like it's a video game I used to know and love. And then I see this, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's still, you know what it is? It's Robopon. Like, everybody remembers Robopon. I remember Robopon. I liked Robopon. It was my first website I ever built. And like Dreamweaver 1 kind of thing was like trying to make a guide to it because I found secret items and crap like that. It's Pokemon with robots, and I love it. I think that's awesome. I think it's great. So, color me interested 100%. Even if all I did was play with my brother once, we would both get a kick out of it. That's awesome. Okay, Rome, the board game. This is the Total War series branded thing. This is kind of interesting because I started really strong in this, and the more I found out, the more I kind of stepped away. It essentially has a mode where it's just the top-down map version, right? Where you're moving your units around, and then you do like a quick kind of like card play real quick to essentially do the auto-resolve style combat. For people who want to do the like strategic part of it, you know, like the whole other half of the video game, or the whole other 2/3 as far as I'm concerned. That's the part it's all about. You can get an expansion that has that, but it's still card based. So there are no minis, at least in that sense. So you would think there's to be like a beefy, hefty, like skirmish game with this kind of side meta campaign long-term thing, kind of like a hate style kind of thing. But no, it's really just that top level thing. And then and then you can also like move some cards around a little bit. It seems kind of odd to me. And it seemed very, very focused on the kind of like, you know, this counters this, counters this, counters this. So I don't know. It just kind of bummed me out a little bit. Next up, we have Diablo Layers Miniatures. This is just a miniature line for 3D printing. However, I've gotten other minis from Claudia. She does a great job. These look super cool. It looks definitely interesting. I have no idea what's going on here. But it seems cool. So definitely interested to see what else is going on in that one. And then finally, Asgard Rising, Tales from Midgard. Also looks super cool. Again, Asgard Rising does some cool stuff. I love Norse-based stuff, so definitely interested in finding out more from there. All right, and one last thing. There is also Blood Oak Chapter 1 that's coming out. This is actually the least cool picture about it, because these minis here, like that they actually made, are awesome. They are super cool, like super good. Not only that, right? And they got like terrain going on here. They got like this freaking guy riding this junk, but they've been doing their like ancestor stuff, like the Tenjin stuff, and it is just killer. It's so good. So really excited to see more of like oh my gosh, it just looked cool. So very well designed. They're a really cool bunch of guys. They're doing these ancestors like Tenjin. Again, I've printed them out. I've shown them off to you. They look fantastic. The texture quality, all that. So excited to hear more about this. This is like a tank-like status. Okay, what is that? I don't know. Well, we'll have to find out soon enough. Guys, that was a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. I did too. I don't know if you can tell, but I get excited about this stuff. I honestly have such a huge passion for this. It's a lot of work. But I love doing it because I'm just reading about really cool games and I get to share really cool games with you guys. That being said, if you did appreciate the effort in this video, and you can, there is that link to Patreon, and it does help a lot. This is an independent channel where I don't take money from game developers, and so it's kind of a harder road to go. I could get a whole bunch of money real quick by doing that, but I don't, so that if there is an issue, I'm free to just speak my mind very frankly, and I don't have to worry about offending anybody or doing anything like that. It's just simpler for me to do, and it just means I can be real with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Either way, if you could at least leave a like and let us know, seriously, if I missed anything. I'm sure I have. I'm sure as the year goes on, more and more will be revealed. Let me know down below. And with that, I'll go and let you guys go. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys.